Hello, everybody, and welcome to Unanswered Questions. Sometimes during our live broadcast to schools, we just don't get enough time to answer all the amazing questions from students.
That happens more often than not.
So we're going to take some time and answer some of the top upvoted questions we didn't get time to answer from, what was the last month?
It was May.
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 I lose track.
We're in June. Only 2 weeks left of school, basically. We still got like another 12 programs we're doing between now and the next 2 weeks. Like, we're super duper busy.
So let's answer some of the questions.
Here we go.
First question. Could someone track down a voice recording?
Yeah, anything's possible, for sure. I mean, I can tell you in policing, they do it quite often. There's, depending upon how the recording is done or where it's posted, there's always going to be some metadata, and that metadata could lead to more information that is needed for things like a search warrant.
Well, what about tracking down from a voice in a voice recording?
Well, see, what's going to make that interesting now is everything to do with AI,
Yeah.
right? Like, how do you prove now that the voice that you're hearing is actually the real voice and not AI? Like, it's unbelievable. Like, I follow what's going on in the forensic police world quite often, and they're talking about this very issue, right? Going, hey, listen, when we hear something, how do we now prove that it's actually the person and not a fake generated AI voice, right? Because it's getting so good. So that's what's going to be interesting. But the answer to the question is, yeah, it can be tracked. But now the question is it an actual person or is it AI?
How do you make a fake email? Well, you just sign up for an email account from some service that offers you a free email. That's the simplest way.
Fake email at gmail.com.
Yeah.
Right?
Or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, of course, when you sign up to create an account, it's going to collect personal information about you. So it'll be fake in terms of people on the internet won't know who you are necessarily,
Right.
but the service that you sign up for will likely have some records about what you're doing and where you're connecting from.
You know what mom and dad do? Like, when we were going into stores, have you ever noticed that if you provide them with an email address, you'll get like a 10% or a 15% discount? There's an app out there, right?
Yep.
I'm sure you've seen it where you click on the app and it gives you
The temp mail app?
a temp mail for like 15 minutes. So you give them that email address and then you get your discount, but the email disappears basically after 15 minutes, right? So you're not going to get your real email is not going to be inundated with spam from these companies.
Yep. Do you know any hackers?
Sure do. In fact, we hired one to do some work for us on a product that we were reviewing, right? So just to make sure from a hacking standpoint that it was to see what he could or couldn't do. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we consult and contract with skilled hackers. Yeah, we do. Why do hackers hack for money?
Because to them, it's easier than actually working for it. Return on investment for some of these guys, right? Like, it's like a lot of these hacks that we're now looking at, they're like $50, $100 million ransoms being held, right? Like, there's a hospital that just got hit not too long ago, and the hackers are, I think it's a $50 million a ransom that they're asking for, right? So that's the reason why. It's an easy way to make money, and the risks of getting caught are actually, if you're good at what you do, quite low.
Yeah.
Right. So,
what other things can hackers get from you? Well, I mean, they could try to steal money, or maybe you'll have some kind of digital asset that they will then resell for money. Usually money's involved somehow.
Or what they'll do is they'll try and steal your information for identity theft, right? Which in the end is all about money, but their goal is to try and get as much information so that they can pretend to be you to do things with your persona, right? Yeah, impersonation, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes hackers will try to hide their tracks by hacking into your accounts and then use your accounts to commit other crimes. So then when they get caught, who gets to knock on the door?
Right.
The original hacker or person whose account was being hijacked.
Yeah, for sure.
So, there's tons of reasons why. How do you remove viruses from an app or a game?
I don't think you can. Like, if it's an app that you've downloaded or a game you've downloaded and it's built into the software, like, you don't have access. You don't have privilege admin rights to go in and change anything.
Yeah,
right?
your best bet there is an antivirus software. So sometimes in games, depending on how they're built, different files within the games that access different servers on the internet, you can block specific files, and sometimes antivirus programs will pick up those commands and then initiate a block for them. Now, of course, that may actually break the game itself, but of course, why are you using a game that has a virus in it anyways? It's probably not something legitimate that you've paid for properly anyways. So, yeah. Yeah, proper paid for AAA common games that you get off Steam or any other game store are probably going to be fine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do hackers know what time it is when you post something? Yeah, yeah. Usually there's a record when you share things online
there's
of
a
a
timestamp,
timestamp.
yeah.
Of when and kind of maybe roughly where you posted something. Timestamps are not always public. Sometimes they're in the metadata of what you post, and sometimes you can pull that out through an API or an application programming interface, where you can get extra information from a public network. Yeah.
Went over my head.
Do you think people are safe doing live sports? I'm assuming streaming it.
Or it could also be, I mean, I've seen this argument as well where a lot of youth are saying like there's more kids that are seriously injured and sometimes even killed playing sports like hockey or baseball or football than there are playing online sports, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was at a hospital a few months ago, and sitting there in the waiting room, and don't get me started on Canada's healthcare system, but that's a different show. Well, the amount of people who walked in with sport-related injuries, and I'm just sitting going, are we doing nothing about this to prevent sport-related injuries? And yet, it's interesting.
It's an interesting argument that we've heard a lot of teens will bring up, saying, a lot of people tell us that, there's all these dangers with doing things online. And there are, don't get us wrong. But when you look at actual harm, serious injury, and sometimes even death, like you see more of it in everyday interactions offline than you do online, right?
Yeah.
So, but I mean, that's why it's all about risk management, right? In most sports, they do things to help reduce risk, right? So, yeah, I heard it was a great argument. I love it. I'm using it now where, people want to ban phones because, bad things can happen. And another safety advocate said, well, you know what? When you're walking through a forest, you could run into a bear or a cougar or a coyote or they also said a troll. Oh my, right? Like, so does that mean we stop kids from walking in parks by themselves? No. What do? We provide them with safety information, right? So that they can make informed decisions as they're walking into the forest. And if all
or
of
you
a sudden,
just ban the forest.
Yeah, like,
no forest allowed.
Exactly. And that was their argument, right? Like they're kind of doing the analogy thing. And I went, that's a good point, right? So.
Why are you specifically located in Victoria, British Columbia? There's another Victoria in Australia.
Yeah.
We're the Canadian one.
Yeah, because it's a great place to live. Mountains, ocean, whales. I mean, it's just that's where we live. That's where we're home based.
That's where the family.
And unfortunately, it's one of the most expensive in Canada to live here. But I mean, it's where we live, right?
Yeah,
and we love it here.
It's just the happenstance of where you're born and where your family are.
Yeah, and we love it. We love it.
Is watching YouTube without an account risky? No, nothing. I don't see why it would be. Actually, you're probably better doing that because less data is being tracked and recorded about your watching history.
Because who owns YouTube?
Google.
Google owns YouTube, right? And they're hoovering up everything you're doing, right?
Yeah. So I wouldn't say it's more or less. It's probably better because the less data is being captured about you attached to your Google account.
And you can still set up restrictions even though you're viewing it, right?
Okay, I guess that's a good argument because if you have a Google account, YouTube account, you can add restrictions if you have an account.
Correct.
So you can create a more curated experience on the app.
Yes. However, in because you're now actually creating an account and because it's owned by Google, they're now collecting just a ton of information, right? So it's one of those things, right? It's just risk management.
Can PlayStation party chats logs get leaked? Yeah, there's a couple ways. So Sony does keep a record of what happens on party chats.
So therefore, it's accessible by way of warrant by
Yeah.
law enforcement. That's one way.
Or depending how big your group is, someone taking a screenshot of your chat or
Which
recording
happens all the time.
or recording your voice chat and taking that and leaking it.
Which happens all the time. Like, we've helped more than a few teens deal with that issue,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, that's why we say no matter what your platform, no matter what your social network, no matter what your app, including Snapchat, no matter what your privacy settings, understand that whatever you're saying or posting can be public, permanent, searchable, exploitable, copyable, shareable, and sometimes being sold, right? So
What's the best way to avoid getting personal pictures leaked?
don't post them, right?
Well,
like, when you think
that's
about it, that's the ultimate. But
yeah.
that's unreasonable in a way, right?
See, once something is digital, it's easy to get lost,
Exactly.
stolen, leaked, scammed. So I guess the question is, if you have something on your device, I don't care what it is, that you want no one else to see or know about, you can never guarantee 100% safety. I mean, just think about the Apple bug where people's deleted photos from their iPhones magically reappeared.
Now, apparently they fixed that bug recently because people are going, oh, right? By the way, if you have iOS 17 still on your phone and you haven't upgraded, make sure you check your photo album to make sure pictures that you deleted in the past have not reappeared in your photo album, right?
Yeah, but it was just a weird bug in terms of how Apple apparently managed temporary files for syncing to iCloud and whatnot. It was under certain specific conditions, old photos deleted would reappear. But again, that just goes to show if there's something on your device that you want no one to know about, I don't care what it is, you might want to double think about really keeping that saved there.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. And even if you protect it, one of the things you can do, you can privatize your account, makes it less likely somebody you don't know gets in there. But what about the frenemy who may already be in there, who's now going to screen capture the picture that you have and then potentially use it? And, we've heard some teens on Snapchat, they'll put it into For My Eyes Only, but yet we've had a number of incidences where pictures that were stored in the For My Eyes Only got leaked, right? Primarily because teens will share their passwords with their friends.
They got scammed. There were a couple cases in the U.S.,
exactly.
actually both in New York, where an individual was scamming people for their Snapchat passwords to log in because people would store spicy photos
Nudes.
in their Snapchat account, which once you get the password, anyone in there could see.
Exactly.
So, yeah. If your account is anonymous, okay, and you don't post your face, do you have to worry much? Well, technically, you wouldn't be anonymous necessarily. Sure, maybe other people on the internet won't see your name because you chose not to share your name.
Like a Finsta account is a good example, right?
But, when you connect to an app or a program or a website, you are leaking data, IP addresses, cookie information, browser IDs, the size of your screen, how much battery you have. There's a lot more information besides what you enter in your account that is being shared that you can't easily block.
What's interesting about this question is, again, how AI is going to change this issue, right? Because as you know, we've done work on looking at these deep fake nudes that are apps that are out there and that kind of stuff. It's, a lot of teens who have been posting full frontal pictures of themselves, including their face, those things can get captured and then morphed, right? And turned into these deep fake nudes. And so it's going to be interesting to see if teens start creating countermeasures to help offset that. Like a good example, rather than having a full face on, maybe turning your face slightly to the side so that the AI is not collecting.
The problem with that is that you can control what you post. You can't control what other people post about you.
That's true.
So,
that's true.
Right? If someone takes a photo of you in public and shares your face, someone can still take that and morph it and edit it.
Good point.
So unless we somehow restrict freedom of expression rights and prevent people from taking photos.
And that really, really also holds true of and we've written about the sharenting issues, right? Yeah. And how parents will take pictures and share them because you're proud of your kid and that kind of stuff, not understanding some of the dangers associated with that, right? So we actually have a post on our Facebook page that I posted a couple of days ago, specifically on a video that was done by ABC in Australia. Just a great video on issues surrounding sharenting, right? And some of the dangers of what's going on and how some of these pedophiles now are kidfluencers, they're called, right? Where parents are creating these kid influencers to represent products and they're making good money at it.
Yeah, true.
But now pedophiles, what they're now doing are taking these pictures of these young kids in bathing suits and then pornifying them, right? So again, it's going to be AI is extremely transformative. It can be used for good or bad, but it's going to be interesting to see how we as a society change our behaviors online to try and combat that to some degree. But like you say, you can control what you post. You really can't control what others post about you, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, good point.
How did you switch to that cool background screen?
Which one? We have all kinds of them.
Well, I mean, we have our proper physical set.
Right.
It's not a green screen.
Maybe they're talking the big
Right. We
board.
do have our virtual big board, which is a big, massive touch screen.
Yeah, it's not a green screen.
Yeah. So I guess we have 1, 2, 3, 4,
6 cameras.
5. Yeah, about 6 cameras. Maybe another 1 or 2 in the summertime.
Yeah, we got some really cool things that Brandon's got planned to even make what we do more immersive in nature, right? Which is I don't want to leak and kind of tip our hand here, but it'll be kind of cool if it works.
Yeah, we just integrate.
We just need time.
Yeah, true. Schools are coming to a close pretty soon, so we'll have summertime to build and expand.
For sure.
What would happen if someone hacked your broadcast? Would they get access to your information?
We saw this a lot during COVID when Zoom first became popular in Teams and people were Zoom bombing others, right? I mean, I remember watching one other safety advocate doing a Zoom event, and somebody came in and they didn't set up their and all of a sudden they started drawing phallic symbols all over the screen during a parent's presentation on how to keep your kids safe online. Well, hello.
Or there have been some broadcasts that schools will connect into, and they will do like a Zoom event, and they'll have all the cameras on, but it's a public meeting. So you have all these classrooms with kids being broadcast to the public internet that anyone could see and record.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, I mean, okay.
But
so
what would happen if someone hacked your broadcast? Would they get access to your information? I mean, if they hack your broadcast, if you don't put in proper safety measures, well, then they can start to do things that everybody can see that may not be very politically correct. And would they get access to your information? Well, maybe, right? Who knows?
yeah, I mean, for our broadcast, they would have to gain access to our broadcasting account. But of course, we have good security, two-factor, all the things in place
for sure.
that would prevent that.
Yeah, we can't be Zoom bombed or team bombed in doing what it is that we do.
Yeah. Unless someone were to come into the studio and like physically like do something. It's
somebody comes in with a mask. Give your control.
What about voice recognition or voice ID? Is your voice stored and can it be hacked, or can it be used to hack your device or account?
Yeah, we're seeing this now, right? AI.
I haven't really seen that a whole lot, like voice print ID. Not like the movies where you like go
dun 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 dun.
Or the one trope I've seen in like heist movies where someone has to sing a song to unlock a vault or something, like the voice print ID. Right. I don't really see that in the real world.
However, what we were seeing was because a lot of these bank accounts were using voice authentication now to get into accounts. People were using AI to generate the voice, and it was fooling these banks and stuff, right? So there was when all of a sudden this started to become more popular because of AI, the banks were in a big rush to change that security. Because once upon a time, a voice recording was kind of like a digital fingerprint, right? But the problem with AI now is it's so exact that they can basically, it was really hard for that technology to differentiate between the two.
Do online platforms like Office 365 store data from your speech to text? Is your voice recorded and stored somewhere? I can't speak to Office specifically because I'm not entirely familiar, but typically whenever you're using an online service, data does have to be collected and stored. To the degree would be up to the privacy policy and the handling of that data of the service, but data does have to be transmitted to use their platforms.
My gut tells me yes, right? Like my gut tells me that it probably can, but we don't know, right?
Yeah, a lot of larger companies, Google, Microsoft, Apple, are putting in protections or more strict policies on how data is being stored and when it's deleted compared to what it used to be like 10, 15 years ago. So we are seeing changes, but at some point, the data of your speech to text does have to be scanned and analyzed in order to provide you that service to some degree. Who should you tell first if you get hacked?
Well, if you're a teen, tell your parent, or a preteen, tell your parent. Number two, your internet service provider, depending upon the type of hack. And number three, the social media platform on which your account was taken over, right?
Yeah. And now, to be honest, depending on the level of hack that you're experiencing, there may not be a solution. I know some people contact us going, "Hey, what can I do to fix this?" And sometimes you can't easily do it unless you have a lot of time, a lot of money, and resources, maybe. But for the average, consumer, prevention is really important for this. Is there such a thing as a good hacker, that they hack online for good reason?
Absolutely. They're pen testers is a good penetration testers, right?
Yeah. Now, usually, it's not like they just randomly hack for good. Typically, there has to be signed legal agreements, or there's an open test that's going on. So it's not like, I'm going to try and hack into my bank to see what's wrong. I mean, I would have to have proper authorization from the bank to test their system.
And in fact, there are companies out there that have these good hackers, and that's what they do. That's their job. That's how they work. That's what they do is they ask other companies, hire us, we'll check your system and make sure it can't be hacked. And if it can be, we'll identify those holes so that you guys can plug them, right? They're called pen testers or penetration testers.
If you fall prey to a hacker and then send them money, what can you do to get it back?
Well, we've had a couple of times where if you notify your bank or your credit card company or whoever you're sending it to, a lot of times if you do it quick enough, they can put a stop payment on it. But you have to be pretty quick, because once the transfer is being done and they retrieve it, unless you know who the person is, the likelihood of getting it back, not very likely.
Yeah, if you get scammed from a traditional banking system, then it is easier because there are regulations of tracking and identification for your regular banking transactions. Where this becomes challenging is if it involves crypto or gift cards. Or other monetary valued products that aren't your traditional cash and wire transfers.
Although law enforcement is getting a little better now at tracking crypto.
Yeah.
The problem is
you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, and where it's located, what country. Like if it's in a country that is pro-NATO, then there's things that you often can do about it. Like
Yes.
I went to a conference just recently, or a presentation done by a Saanich police officer who's a fraud investigator there, and they were able to get back a small percentage of money that was scammed in crypto back from them. But one of the things that they said is, depending upon where the crypto company is located, that's the big one, right?
Yeah, if crypto scams happen on an exchange that is, NATO friendly, then yes, there's usually fraud prevention. I think Kraken, I think, has some
Kraken.
I've seen them pop up as again, if you store your crypto in an online place, I mean, we've seen a lot of issues. Didn't one of the CEOs of one of those crypto companies just get charged or something?
Yeah,
because of
don't
fraud.
know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, you're putting a lot of trust because there's a lot less protections compared to traditional banking.
Yeah, for sure.
So potentially you can get your money back, but it
The
depends.
likelihood not.
Most
Or if you do, it's only going to be a very small percentage of
Yeah.
what you lost.
and most criminals aren't going to want to use traditional banking because
Exactly.
they're more easily tracked.
Exactly.
Yeah. Can a hacker find out where you live?
Yes.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
is that
simple answer is yes.
Yeah. Is that inherently a bad thing? Not necessarily. I mean, it's, knowing your address of where you live is kind of like knowing your car license plate number. It's information that's out there, and given the tracking and photos everywhere and how people share information on social media, or if you take a photo.
Now, having said that, you want to try and minimize that type of information,
Yeah.
right? To make bad actors harder to find you.
But, if someone takes a selfie in their backyard, I mean, you can use geographic triangulation to figure out where the trees are, the sun is, the mountains, to figure out where you're located. It's actually a lot of cool forensic stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool OSINT stuff going on right now with regards to shadows, where they can look at shadows now and predict, using algorithms now, roughly where that point on the globe was located based upon the shadows.
Or the vegetation around you to kind of narrow down geographically, and then using the sun. So
It is amazing.
is where you live private information?
Depends upon.
It used to be, but in today's world, it's I don't really consider that a whole lot.
Yeah.
It's if someone knows where you live and then they say, "Hey, you live here, and I'm going to do bad things to you," now we got a problem.
Right.
But a lot of people message us.
Or if you're in witness protection.
Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. Yeah. But a lot of people message us going, "Hey, someone said online they got my IP address and they say they know where I live." Okay.
They know the area in which you live, not necessarily your home address.
Well, it depend. Well, sometimes that they will share that.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, you could take your IP, go to a public data breach database, cross-reference that with other information. So you could get information from that if you put the work in.
Right.
But, someone knows where you live. People will say that to kind of intimidate and scare.
Right.
But there's a lot of context to when and how that becomes illegal or not.
Right.
It's an interesting challenge people are facing today. If you change your password to your account after it has been hacked, will the hacker still have access? Depends. Most online platforms, when you change your password, it will automatically log out of your active sessions on every device you're currently logged in on. You'll have to re-enter your password to do that. Now, all the major networks and programs and apps, from my experience, do that, but there are some that don't.
And isn't the other issue too if the hacker put a keystroke logger on your system, right? Because, if there's a keystroke logger on there, if you change your password, they're going to see what your new password is. So if you get hacked, one of the first things that you should do before you change your password is to maybe run a full scan of your system and make sure any kind of malware, that's on there, such as a keystroke logger, gets nuked if it can, and then think about resetting your password. Would that not make sense?
Possibly. Depends on the device. Some devices you can't run the scans like that. Like an Apple device, you can't run a scan like that.
Right.
But you can still put a keystroke logger in a way on an Apple device because you can install a custom keyboard, which then collects that information. But then antivirus doesn't work very well. So you got that. So it can be hard. But again, it's assessing where the hack came from. Was it a virus on your computer or was it something else? So
God, a lot of questions from the kids on hackers this go around. Holy moly.
If you block the hacker, can they come back?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
Most of the time, rude and annoying people go away. But if it is a true hacker who is targeting you, they're probably not going to leave you alone by simply blocking them. Right. And that's why there's other steps you can take to escalate that.
Right.
Can we report illegal instances to your company, the White Hatter, instead of the RCMP?
Well, if it's illegal, we always say report it to the police, because if you want something done, then it's only the police are going to be able to do something about it. I mean, reporting it to us, what we can do is look at it and then make recommendations to you as to what you should be doing when you're contacting the police. So a really good example, we helped a family recently whose child got themselves into a lot of trouble online. They weren't going to notify the police because of all these issues and misbeliefs that they had. And then after talking to us and letting us fill them in what would actually happen with the police, they then phoned the police, and as a result of that, an individual has now been arrested for several sexual offenses towards kids as a result of that, right? So ultimately, it's the police that are going to be able to help you deal with these individuals, not necessarily us, right? So
yeah,
we can be the guides.
We don't have the legal authority as, say, members of the RCMP and police have.
Right.
But we do have tech skills.
Correct.
That we can use to help families guide them. And
provide information to the police to make it a little bit more easy for them to get that search warrant of production.
Right. Not every member of police know how to do online investigative work.
Correct.
And reasonably so, because police resources are spent to deal with physical safety issues, which are more important than online issues indeed.
And I mean, what we have, the advantage that we have is that, considering I was in law enforcement for 30 years, I get it. I get how it works, right? So as a result of that, I kind of got an inside track on what they're looking for and what they would need as the essential elements to help prove a crime or in order to get that production order or that warrant, whatever it is that they're doing. So
do you think AI will take over the world?
the Terminator.
Well, in terms of world domination, probably not. But do I think AI will be involved in every single thing that we do in our world? Yes. Just look at Apple's last event that they had, where now every Mac device, or at least all the new ones, will be integrated with AI features built in by default.
Yeah.
So
see that the the troubles that we have with this is that there's no real scaffolding put in place, right? Like we're in this real wild west where every social media platform and app developer now is looking to integrate AI into their hardware and software, maybe not understanding safety by design issues associated with that. Like there's still so many questions, but AI is like any other tool. You can use it for good or bad. We hear about a lot of the bad, but we don't necessarily hear a lot about the good either, right? But do I think it's going to take over the world like the Terminator or what was the Matrix, right? The Matrix. I don't think we're gonna get to that point.
First, humans aren't good batteries.
Yeah.
That's the major flaw in that movie.
Wow, that was deep.
The whole movie falls apart if you understand that humans don't produce energy, we consume it.
Well, we got to produce it because there's an electrical system in our body, so we are producing
But
it.
we consume energy in order to the return on investment is very small.
Okay,
Yes, we
gotcha.
produce heat, but the amount of energy that needs to be fed into us is more.
But there's electrical current in our body.
Yeah, but it's only doable because we consume other resources in order to produce.
Well, that's true. We got to eat to live, right?
Yes.
Okay, I gotcha.
So in order for a robot to use us as a battery, they would have to feed us in order to keep the battery running.
Well, that's what the hoses were down the mouths.
Yeah,
remember when they were pulling them out of the pods on the Matrix? They pull them out. No,
but they absorb heat energy from humans, right? But there's so much other when we consume the I check Neil deGrasse Tyson has a good explanation on this. All I know is
boy, we went down a deep
just
hole on that one.
Trust Neil deGrasse Tyson. He has a whole video just explaining it.
All right.
But yes, humans don't make good batteries. There's a lot more resources. It's not a cost benefit analysis.
That was a deep dark hole.
Yeah.
What's next?
Anyways, what if your mom is undercover cyberbullying their kid and the kid doesn't know? I heard a story about that.
And it's not a story, it's an actual fact. It happened in the United States where a mother was targeting another girl on a cheerleading team because their daughter didn't make the team. So they were kind of trolling them. And as a result of that, the mother was arrested and charged.
Yeah, but this question is, what if the mom is cyberbullying their child?
That's
not a child of another person,
right.
But cyberbullying their child.
Well, that's still illegal, depending upon what the cyberbullying is, right? It could still be illegal.
Yeah. Most certainly would probably break the family relationship.
You figure?
Yep. We have seen cases of kids, especially those kidfluencers who are suing parents for what they made their kids do.
You know what? There's been lots of cases. Our friends, Dr. Samir and Dr. Hinduja from the Cyberbullying Institute just released another study that they did. This is the third one on the topic where kids will self-bully themselves, right? Small percentage will do it themselves in order to get the attention and sympathy. And so that happens as well.
Yeah. I mean, we as people in media, we like sad stories. So sometimes people will understand that a sad story about you can help you advance. I mean, there's a reason why a lot of competition, like reality show competition shows, they often feature the sad stories. Because if you're just an average person, okay, who cares? But if you have a sad story, that's usually focused on a whole lot. So perhaps we need to look at how we interpret and consume media and how it sheds certain lights on certain people. So, yeah.
But the other thing, I mean, one of the reasons I bring up Dr. Samir and Dr. Hinduja's and Patchen's research is that when we talk to schools and principals, one of the things that we say is sometimes you got to dig a little deeper because maybe it's not another student, maybe it's the student themselves. And that is kind of maybe a keystone to bigger issues that need to be looked at with that specific student, right? So,
yeah.
Yep.
Or, sometimes it's a political tactic.
Yeah.
I mean, we know in politics, some people will make false flag accounts. So in order to represent an enemy, to smear them, to only then reverse that on their enemy to show them bad light. Right. It's a lot of politics involved in that kind of thing as well. If someone on Snap is saying something bad, saying bad stuff about me, what should I do? It depends what the bad stuff is. If they're saying illegal things, that's different compared to if they're saying mean and rude things. Right. Because like it or not, people do have a freedom of expression. And if you're in the US, a freedom of speech. So yes, there are limitations, more so in Canada than the US. But people do have rights to speak their feelings and what's on their mind, assuming what they're saying is legal. So you may not like it.
Block, delete.
That's your solution. Is it illegal to send images after you break up?
The answer is, if you're sending an image, i.e. a nude, let's just call it what it is because they're probably talking nude here. If you're sending a nude to anybody and you have not got consent from the picture or from the person in that nude that you have to send it to anybody else, you just broke the law in Canada. Right, in Canada. I can speak to Canada. Most U.S. states as well, especially if the person's under the age of 18. But even if they're over the age of 18, if you're sending that picture to anybody without the consent of the person in that picture or video, you're breaking the law. You're now guilty in Canada of the non-consensual distribution of an intimate image.
Yep.
So,
what role does artificial intelligence play in cyberbullying?
Well, it's starting to play a bigger role, right?
I see it more in the AI generation of images, where images can be used to create a false narrative in order to frame someone, bully someone, make them appear as if they're in an embarrassing situation. So I think that's where it can play.
I mean, this is another reason why teaching digital literacy specific to AI detection and what to look for to help you make a decision, is this real or is it potentially AI generated, is so important. However, the AI generations now are getting so good. It's really hard. Even a year ago, it was easy to maybe identify a picture that was AI generated. But today, a year later, it's getting much harder. If you remember a year ago, one of the things we used to say is, if you're streaming with somebody live and they're using AI to look like somebody else, have them turn their head 90 degrees or wave their hands in front of their face, because usually you'd see some distortion. The newest stuff out there doesn't, there is no distortion.
And that this stuff's being built into devices. So I refer back to Apple's AI announcement. If I remember correctly, they had a part there. You can take photos from your photo album of other people and then use that in a generation.
Correct.
Right. That's a feature built into the Apple ecosystem. Right. So that is a bit of a concern.
Yeah, but the pictures that they're building in, there's only, I think there was 3 ways you can do it. One was cartoon, one was script. They don't look real. They look very cartoonish, or you could tell that they're AI generated kind of thing. And so they're not making them so that they look like a real picture.
Right.
I guess is the best way to describe it. Right?
That'd be a good, but still you're using, Is lying about your age in Roblox just to play a horror game, which is going to be 18 plus, illegal?
It's not illegal. It's just a violation of terms of service.
Yeah, typically not. Now, we are seeing some changes and some proposals in the U.S. where certain U.S. politicians are looking to make age restrict by law. Now, I haven't seen any of them actively target somebody lying, but I wouldn't say I'd never see that, but at the moment, typically it's the responsibility of the platform to ensure that people are at the proper age that's required.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen some of these proposed laws around the world, and some of them, I would argue, actually try to criminalize a youth if they've lied about their age. It's like, what are we doing? Why are we punishing our kids, right? Like, yeah, okay, they lied. I get it, but really should the focus not be on the game or on the social media platform or the vendor to ensure they're doing everything possible? Because even with age gating, I still think that there's going to be ways to bypass that, right? And so I think if a vendor has done their due diligence and everything possible to minimize those risks, should they be punished if all of a sudden somebody lies and they're on there and something bad happens? Well, if they didn't do their due diligence, then the answer is yes. But if they did their due diligence, I don't think so, right?
But how can you assure everyone's safe by age requirements if you don't require by law someone to upload their government photo ID to verify their age?
Yeah, one of the things they're talking about now is our age verification on device, right? So that it's done on the device and not transmitted to another company. However, although there's lots of talk about that, there's nothing yet that is being developed that is 100% secure in doing that, right? Like it's going to be interesting, right? Like there's a lot of pros and cons surrounding age gating and all those types of issues, privacy issues associated with it. Because, a lot of the age gating programs that they're talking about, like you say, you have to provide some kind of documentation to some third party. Well, what's that third party going to do with it? How are they securing it, right? All those issues.
If you find suspicious activities on your Discord, how do you get that off if you forgot your password? Ooh, that's a challenging one because, that's why
You're on Discord all the time. Right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's why in our programs with students in elementary school, we're starting to talk about proper account management. Because, yeah, there are people who maybe make a mistake, forgot their password, don't manage it properly, and all the work and time and effort they put into their online persona is then lost forever. So, yes, there are password recovery methods, but sometimes people, what they'll do is they want to make some secondary account.
Right.
So they'll make some secondary email that they, make to use for one account. Then they forget that login, so they can't recover it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard. And your best, if it's illegal activity, I mean, you could report it to the platform, and hopefully maybe they'll delete the account in violation of their terms. That might be a good outcome. Yeah, you lose everything, but you don't have it anyways.
Sure.
So, try and recover your password, best first step. But if not, if it's something that's a breaking of TOS, maybe try to get it deleted. Is social media a conduit for gang activity?
The answer is yes.
It can be.
Yeah, we've actually seen this here in the province of British Columbia, where gangs will specifically use platforms that are extremely popular with teens as a way to connect with teens, or to kind of show them that, hey, why work at McDonald's for minimum wage when you can come work with us and make big money? Look at the jewelry, look at the clothing, look at the car I'm driving. This could be you, right? So they use it as a stepping stone to connect with young people as a part of that recruitment process, right?
Yeah, social media is a conduit for any social interaction that we experience in our physical world, be it, positive or negative.
Yeah, for sure.
So, is it used for political influence?
Yes.
Yes. Is it used for finding friend groups?
Yes.
Yes. Is it used for showing off how awesome you are as a person?
Yes.
It's nothing different. It's just enhancing what we already experience in our everyday world.
But are gangs use it for recruitment? Absolutely. Yeah. They're also using it to commit crime too, right?
True. Are police using social media to find gang members?
Absolutely.
That's also happening too.
Yeah.
So, yeah. If you send photos to someone, steals them from the person you sent them to, and then shares them, who gets in trouble?
So if you send photos and someone steals them from the person you sent them to.
I get it. So I send you a photo.
Yeah, I got it.
I think they're probably talking about nudes here.
Yeah.
I'm most certain that's what they are.
Yeah.
I send you a nude.
Okay. Consensually.
Consensually.
And lawfully within Canada.
Then you get hacked.
Right.
Are you held liable because you have to keep those images private?
I don't think so. I think if you get hacked and you know you're hacked and you immediately report it to the police, it reduces the likelihood of you having any criminal liability. But no, if you get hacked, I don't think there's, because in order to commit a crime or to prove a crime, you need two things. You need the mens rea, the guilty mind, and the actus reus, the act itself. I think in this case, there may be the act, which was a picture being grabbed, but there's no mens rea. I didn't mean to share it with anybody. Somebody stole it from me.
Yeah, it'd be similar if you took a nude selfie of yourself and then you keep it private, but someone hacks into you.
I like how you do this.
Yeah. But someone hacks into you. Yes, taking your own nude photo in most places around the world, not like you get arrested for that. Most places around the world. But if you get hacked and they share that, are you held liable to that? Probably not.
No. The other thing too is to help minimize that and make sure that if you're storing something like that on your phone, you're putting it in some kind of a vault and locking behind a secondary password, right?
Yeah.
So to make it far less likely for it to be obtained.
Do parents get in trouble if the kids are charged for sending nude pictures or sharing one without consent?
No. Why would the parents get in Why would the parents get in trouble, right? So the answer to that question is no. Absolutely not. Now, can parents get in trouble for what kids do on social media?
That's what I was thinking about.
The answer is yes. So a really good example of that was a case here in British Columbia where a student went to a school. They were videotaping the fact that they caused the fire sprinklers to go off in the school, all kinds of damage that they were streaming because they were thinking it was funny and for likes and follows. And as a result of that, the parent was sued by the school board or the school district as a result of that.
Yeah. Right. Well, I guess in this scenario, if a parent was actively aware that a child of theirs or a teen of theirs more likely were sending nudes without consent, stealing them or whatnot, and they willfully were blind to that activity,
Or maybe they were participating in it.
potentially.
I mean, that's an extreme case where maybe the parent was involved with the youth who was distributing child sexual abuse material, nudes of themselves under the age of 18 for the purposes of financial gain, right?
Yeah.
And if the parent knew that was going on and encouraging it, maybe even taking the pictures to give to the kids that they could then send it, well, yeah, then the parents, definitely there would be some criminal liability, but that's the far extreme. I would argue that in most cases, the answer is going to be no. Right? So,
What would happen if someone hacked into your security cameras?
well, then they could see everything.
Yeah, then they can see everything. Of course, that would be like an intrusion upon seclusion, unauthorized use. Yeah.
But do you remember the days when the baby monitors, the video monitors first became popular many years ago, and they were using open IP addresses, and
Yeah.
you could drive the neighborhood, and you could pick up those days are gone in most cases.
In most cases.
right? Where
In
things
most,
are put into place. But yeah, if somebody gets into your security system, then they can see everything, right?
Yeah. Would they be breaking the law? Most likely. Now, if you're publicly streaming your camera, that's a different story, because they're just accessing a public feed.
Right.
So, if they break into your camera, break into your password, use a virus, then yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there are some families that got security cameras on their properties pointing at an eagle's nest is a good example, and they open up for public view so everybody can watch it, which is kind of cool, actually, right? So, but if you've got them for security on your property and they're not properly secured, well, if somebody accesses it, then they got full capability to see exactly what's going on. Like there was a site, it's still around right now, where people are still buying cheap security cameras from places like China. And they're not putting proper security places in part. And so you can go to this website and click on it, and you can see people in their homes, right? Because and doing stuff, and they are totally oblivious to the fact. Like there's a couple of cases where I've gone in there and I've actually was able to track down the homes and go, hey, just so that you know, this is who we are, this is what we do. We came across this site, and just to let you know, you need to change your security settings on your camera because people are what? They're going, no way, here's the link, right? So
What do
sometimes cheaper isn't better.
True.
Right.
What do good hackers do to help? Well, typically they will test security systems with proper contracts to look for flaws before bad hackers get a chance to exploit them. Yeah. Good hackers use the same strategies bad hackers do, but they don't gain anything from it except from their contract where they get paid to help. Is Fortnite prone to cyberbullying? Well, any game can be.
Yeah.
I mean, Fortnite is good in the way that you only have a voice chat with people who you're actively in a party with.
The squad, right?
Yeah. So if you're playing with the friends that you know and you trust, that you're probably going to have less of a chance of that. See, games where there is an open lobby chat, where everyone in the game lobby that you're playing with in that moment can all talk to each other, well, then you're probably going to experience some stuff you may not appreciate. I mean, just look at the good old classic Call of Duty lobbies, right? Everyone in the lobby on both teams can all chat to each other. Yeah, there are definitely some things that probably shouldn't be
toxicity, it can be a real issue in these open platform games, right?
Yeah, so Fortnite's only with your lobby. And of course, you can turn it off so you don't hear anybody as well in your lobby. Or in your
but then that ruins all the
squad.
fun. You can't talk to one another, man.
Yeah. Is it illegal to hack a hacker that hacked you?
That reminds me of how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
Yeah. Typically, yes. You two wrongs don't make a right. Now,
that's a good one, yeah.
at the government level, do governments actively hack bad hackers? Yes, because the government makes the laws and they write exceptions for themselves in order for state security. So that does happen, yes. But as a regular consumer, it's like if someone, yes, you have the right to defend yourself, but you're not in any serious physical harm. If someone punches you, you can't next day get a baseball bat and assault them, right? You can't do that.
Yeah, if somebody grabs a baseball bat and smashes your car, can you take your baseball bat and go and smash their car? No, you can't do that.
Right. Yeah, and then both of you get charged.
Exactly.
Yeah. So no. You have to have special legal permissions to do that. And typically that's at the government level. Although some governments do contract to private contractors to do that work, but usually that's in secret. Yeah.
Wet ops.
Yeah. Do you do many school presentations?
A ton. I think this school year we've done over 180. Like, it's amazing how many we've done, right?
Well, we've done more than that.
I know. It's just like unbelievable how many we've done. Like, we'll have a final count in the next 2 weeks, as I always love sharing how many. I think this year was our best year yet with the number. I mean, this year, I think we presented to every province other than Quebec this year, right across our country.
French.
Yeah, we don't parlez-vous le français. But it's, yeah, I mean, this is one of our best years getting out there and doing what it is that we do.
Yeah, an average day will look like we'll have a program in the morning. We'll do a program in the afternoon and then a program in the evening for families and parents. Yeah. Especially when we're broadcasting.
There's some days I make Brandon do 5 in a day.
That's only happened once. Yeah. Some days we can fit 4 in.
Yeah. Remember that one day where we had 5 because there was one in Nova Scotia because they're 4 hours ahead of us. It was, I think we started at like 6:30 in the morning or something like that.
6:30 this week.
I know.
I saw that in the calendar.
You're welcome. That's in Winnipeg, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I ended early because they're doing a parent session that evening. So
it starts at like 4:30 or something.
Yeah, so I finish usually I finish in the studio at like maybe 9 o'clock Pacific time on an average day. Yeah. But if all we're doing are programs and broadcasts to schools on the east coast of Canada, yes, I'm up earlier, but I'm done earlier too. Unless we somehow fit a Pacific school in that evening as well.
Yep.
Which happens. Yeah, we do a lot, which doesn't give me enough time to do upgrades. There's so many things I want to tinker with, and hopefully in a few weeks we'll get to do some of that.
Like you say, we're a small team, but we're a mighty team, but we could use another 3 bodies for sure, right? So,
can someone hack your cameras while you're changing for bed? Anything's possible. I mean, I like to say, for someone to randomly hack into your devices, if you've done everything properly and you're not downloading illegal, weird things from random websites, then you're probably going to be fine, right? But, you know, the only way a hacker's really going to get into your camera system is if they convince you somehow to download a virus. You would have to be tricked into doing that in most cases.
Yeah, I think the issue, cell phones probably not. The bigger issue might be a laptop with the camera built in. So, you know, one of the ways to defeat that is just close your laptop when you're not using it, or put a little Band-Aid over the webcam when you're not using it, right?
Yeah. Webcam hacks were definitely a big concern about 20 years ago.
20 years ago, or more like 10 years ago?
10, 15.
Yeah.
When webcams were really becoming a thing.
Yeah,
so 2004 would have been, 10.
Yep.
No, not 10 years ago. No, it's 2024. No, 20 years ago would be 2004.
Yeah.
So, yeah, 2004 cameras were starting to be, built for computers to do video chats, or Skype back then.
Right. Skype.
Yeah.
Still around. People are still using it.
Yeah. Strangely enough.
Yeah.
What happens when a hacker steals money from you and your friend gets all the money, but he lives on the other side of the world?
Well, number one, he's probably not a friend, right? He probably pretended to be a friend. But the issue is that if you gave them the money, because they frauded you out of it, the likelihood of you getting any of that back is almost 0.
Yeah,
that's just the hard truth, right?
Yeah.
Right. So that's why you got to be so careful. And these guys will work long and hard. Like a lot of people wanted to fraud you online. Yeah, they can be quick drive-by hits, right? But a lot of times they'll groom you over time, right? They'll take weeks, sometimes months to build that rapport with you to get what it is that they want in the end. And then they get, like, we helped an elderly gentleman here that lost almost $1 million as a result of falling prey to one of these guys who groomed him over 6 months to build that rapport and trust with him. And then all of a sudden he gave over his life savings and stuff that he had invested in for his retirement, and he lost everything. Mm-hmm. He lost everything. He ended up it was such a sad story. And, we got him involved with the police, and the police got involved, and in the end, they couldn't get the money back. It was gone.
Yeah.
It was gone. Right. So, and these guys are good at what they do, right? we call it social engineering. It's a form of hacking. That's what I'm good at, right? Is I'm good at social engineering. But these guys are good at what it is that they do and why you've got to be so careful. So, got a lot of questions this go around from the kids on hacks. What's going on?
Huh?
Wow.
I think because I did a lot more student programs this month.
Oh, where you talk about hackers and stuff?
Yeah, the student programs have a lot more technical things in it in regards to protecting your account.
Right.
I think at the high school, it's more about the social relationship challenges.
Yeah, we find that at the high school levels, in today's world, given the past experience of earlier generations, I think teens that are in high schools now have got a pretty good grounding. Not all of them.
No, not all.
But most of them have a pretty good grounding on issues surrounding privacy and security. Well, security, number one. Privacy, still, it's getting better. But for them, it's more about the social aspects and understanding what they're posting and how it come back to work for them or against them and those types of issues. Right?
Yeah, and the school communities that we often get, that we visit again and again, if a student sees us in elementary school and we talk about the tech safety procedures to make sure your accounts are protected, and then they see us when they're in high school, we would hope that they would have the good foundations that we talked about many years earlier.
Yeah, and we don't want to share the same thing at each grade level because then it just gets repetitive and boring. Like, how many times have we seen that, right? Where we watch these presentations that they say that are for high school students, and it's the same as their middle school presentations and elementary presentations. Like, what?
That has been, when I got into the role of the CEO here at the White Hatter.
He's the CEO. He's my boss. And for those of you that don't know, Brandon's our son, right? Like, I'm the father, right? And now he's my boss. I mean, that's weird.
So when I was moved into the CEO position, one of my main objectives was to make it clear that every program we do at the ages that we present to are distinctly different. Yeah, there's going to be some crossover, but I remember, like, as a participant in education and training, I would always dislike hearing the same thing twice.
Yeah.
The worst thing is because we have to make sure that we make students feel appreciated and that their time was worth participating in a broadcast. And the worst things that we can hear from a student is, we heard this last year.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that one of the things that I think is really kind of cool, we hear from students consistently going, wow, that was so different than what we're so used to, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's so different. And we do that purposely, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go. 42 questions answered again. Boy, like I said, a lot of questions on hacking. And I think we're going to do one more of these, right? Because we got to do questions from the month. This was May. So we got June, right?
Well, I was thinking over the summertime.
Yeah.
Summertime project. Because these are all unanswered questions.
Right.
What if I go through the previous school season and I pull out the top answered questions?
Oh.
And I combine all the similar ones. And then we can re-answer them because people who might be watching,
that's a good idea.
Most common ones get answered.
That's why you're the CEO. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
So we can hopefully keep some more videos and clips coming out.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you have it.
If we have time, we have some upgrades to do first.
Yeah, we're going to do some cool things here at the studio for sure. So I'm Darren.
I'm Brandon, and we will see you all next time.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.